Can't find nothing on the radio.
Ready, Steve?
Welcome to Songology. He's Bruce,
He's Richard.
and this is another episode from our Song of the Day archives.
Enjoy.
Welcome back, Bruce. We've had so far werewolves, we've had zombies, we've had Frankenstein's monster, whose name was Adam. Who do we have on tap for today?
Today we have people you've probably never heard of. This is a tale of the macabre, if you will.
Ooh, very scary.
Exactly, from Edgar Allan Poe by way of Alan Parsons.
Okay.
Now, Alan Parsons, you know the name Alan Parsons? You've been playing,
yeah.
I think.
I play a lot of Alan Parsons.
There you go. But do you know the history of Alan Parsons?
No, I don't.
Oh, well,
but I've said it before. That's why you're around.
That's what I'm here for. Alan Parsons, as a young man, really fell in love with music, played guitar and keyboards in different bands, but when he was about 18, 19, got a job at Abbey Road Studios in London and ended up being assistant engineer on the Beatles' Abbey Road album. He really fell in love with the production side of music and became an incredibly successful engineer and then music producer. He worked with everybody, or practically everybody. Most particularly, he was nominated for a Grammy for his work on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Did a lot of stuff with Pink Floyd, did a lot of stuff with various bands in Britain and American bands that would travel overseas to work with him. So one day, while Alan Parsons was sitting around the cafeteria at the Abbey Road Studios, he met a guy by the name of Eric Wolfson, who was a sometime songwriter, sometime manager of talent, and they got to talking and discovered that they had a lot of things in common, enjoyed much of the same music and much of the same philosophy, became good friends, and eventually Wolfson agreed to sort of manage Parsons' career. Well, they both had an interest and a love of Edgar Allan Poe, and one day while they were sitting around talking about music and the business and so forth, the idea came up that really music producers and engineers weren't valued in the same way that the producers and directors of movies were valued. I mean, people speak of Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg or going back to Alfred Hitchcock and other famous directors, Howard Hawks, big names who were known as the creative force behind films, right?
Right.
But who remembers the music producer? Everybody remembers the talent, the guy who was singing or the guy who was playing the instrument, but nobody remembered the producer who put the thing together. And so they hit upon the idea, wouldn't it be really great if we could do something where the producer was the focus of the album? And that is how the Alan Parsons Project was born.
Oh, okay.
The idea was that he would assemble, they would put together music, and then he would assemble the talent for whoever he wanted, and they would play on the record, they would make a record, and away they went. So for the longest time, the Alan Parsons Project was very unique because they were purely a studio arrangement, and they weren't really so much a band, though you will find there's a certain core of musicians that he keeps coming back to time and again. So if you walk through the history of the Alan Parsons Project stuff, you do run into the same names, particularly drummer, bass, and a guitarist by the name of Ian Berenson. The first thing that they came up with to do was a concept album based around the work of Edgar Allan Poe. And so this was born, the first Alan Parsons Project album, which was called Tales of Mystery and Imagination. They did a bunch of different things that was new and groundbreaking for that album. Particularly, one of the reasons why they picked Poe was that Eric Wolfson remembered going, when he went to school, he would pass this movie theater that was playing these lurid Edgar Allan Poe type films, The Pit and the Pendulum and The Fall of the House of Usher and so forth. And he was always too young to go in and see what these scary movies were all about, but he was always intrigued by them. And then later, when he was learning about business in a marketing class, he was told by a lecturer that no film made from Edgar Allan Poe's work had ever lost money. And so they thought, okay, well, we're going to do this new and different thing, this producer-centered thing. Maybe we should stick with Poe because Poe movies don't lose money. Maybe a Poe record won't lose money either. And so the song that I have picked, this Tale of the Macabre, is The Cask of Amontillado. Now, do you remember that, reading that as a young man? You ever read any
I
Poe?
know, I read it. I can't remember it.
Well, to give you the Reader's Digest version of the story, it is told from the point of view of a guy by the name of Montresor, and Montresor has been insulted and wronged by this person who's identified as Fortunato. And he's regarded Fortunato as a friend. They have some sort of a relationship. It's never really quite clear as to whether they're friends or business associates or what their relationship is, but he refers to the fact that Fortunato has been really getting on his nerves for years, but finally he has really committed the most grievous insult. And so Montresor vows revenge. I'm going to take revenge upon Fortunato. Now, Fortunato is a bit of a wine snob. And so Montresor lures Fortunato during a festival. He lures him home to Montresor's home because he says, I've got a cask of Amontillado, which is this wonderful sherry, and you gotta come. This is a rare vintage. You gotta try this. I really want your opinion. And of course, this really gets Fortunato all excited because, oh, my friend Montresor is asking my opinion. I get to show off as a wine snob and so forth. And they've been drinking for a while that evening anyway. Well, so he lures him down into the cellars and is pouring him a glass. Oh, try this, try that, try this, try that. Oh, well, let's get on to the Amontillado. Oh, no, it's way back here in the catacombs kind of thing. And lures him back into an area. Now, by this time, Fortunato is pretty drunk.
Yeah.
And does not notice until it's too late that there are chains that have been set into the wall. And so Fortunato gets chained up in an alcove. And then Montresor proceeds to mix up some masonry and brick up Fortunato and leave him there, which is a heck of a nasty way to go.
Yes.
And one of the more chilling lines in this little tune goes, what price the crown of a king on his throne when you're chained in the dark all alone? Scary stuff, eh?
Very scary.
So let us light your torch and let us go down into the catacombs to see if we can find the cask of Amontillado.
And of course I have to cut it right there until we figure out the fair use rules on YouTube. But don't worry, in a moment I'll give you a place where you can click and listen to the full song. These episodes were recorded for my radio program back in 2014. And I just moved into my new studio, hence the nice hollow sound. We have about 200 episodes to post before we get on to our new material. So please subscribe if you haven't done so. Now here's your chance to listen to the full song or go on to the next episode.